Now, hold on just one freaking second there. I saw a lot of backlash. I'm sorry, Pixel Boy is coming out today from these leaked images that Google definitely sent out themselves of the Pixel 9a. Now, if you recall, I've been pretty positive on the A series of phones in the past, especially the first couple, like the 3A and the 4A were incredible deals. And now, of course, I'm very tempted to switch to the Pixel 9 because of how good the hardware and the software is getting over on Team Google. So I'm scoping the market out and everything, and I'm curious about more budget options out there. So obviously this one hits a little bit close to home for me, but a lot of people immediately got disappointed when they saw this camera bump on the back. But I'm here to tell you that I think people are missing the point. Like, well, yes, I'm a big fan of the Pixel visor camera design. It eliminates the wobble. It's fairly iconic. It's minimal and simple. And this camera bump design goes a little bit against the norm for Pixel. I think we aren't acknowledging enough. Look at how freaking thin this camera bump is. In a world where camera bumps are getting bigger and more obnoxious and larger, Pixel, I think, has an opportunity here, at least with a budget phone, to really try to go back to the old days of, can we actually get really thin or non-existent camera bumps? In fact, that made me think about the lineup as a whole of, like, obviously the Pro phones, like the flagships, should have the better cameras that should be larger, but utilizing Google's algorithms to create really good imagery out of an inferior hardware setup should actually be a great opportunity for budget phones. Like, obviously, we know iPhones and Galaxies and Pixels, they all like having protruding camera bumps because it allows them to fit more lenses, more light into the phone. It can capture more detail. So if you're charging, $900, $1,000+ for a phone, obviously, I think it makes sense to have a really great camera on that system. But if you're intentionally trying to make a more affordable model that's more in the $500 price range, going a little bit more basic with the lenses because this is more of a consumer on a budget friendly option out there, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So while there may be a bit of a compromise on the camera quality here, I do think that maybe making it cheaper or more affordable and even making it more non-case friendly so that it doesn't wobble like crazy is not a bad route to go. Now, my only pushback is if you're leaning into that demographic of like, okay, what about people on a budget? What about people who want to use not the latest and greatest technology, but something that is still going to get the job done and still run all the latest software and do everything that people expect out of a basic everyday smartphone? Well, that's when you're competing not so much with the Pro phones of the world, but you're competing with previous generation Pro phones. I don't know about you guys, but I have seen some incredibly good deals on just a couple of year-old Pixels, like the Pixel 7 Pros on Amazon. Holy crap, you can find some of those things which are still going to have amazing displays and cameras for like $300 and maybe less. And that's still going to have, like okay battery life. It's not going to be class leading or anything, but still, it's probably going to have a lot of advantages over a budget phone like the Pixel 9a, which does kind of put Google in a tricky situation. But I personally like the idea of hopefully Google trying to make a really affordable option, kind of like how the CMF phone, they took some liberties with cutting corners in places that some people thought were too far. But I think if Google is going to have previous generation flagships, that tank in resale value, now you can find Pixel 8s for like $400, maybe less. And as that trend is probably going to continue, the A series of phone, in my opinion, should not just be a couple $100 cheaper. I think it should be like a $300 phone or a $200 phone, so that it's looked at more as like a completely different segment from the flagships, of course, which are just going to have the best of the best displays, cameras, and everything. Instead, I would love to see Google try their hardest to really flood the market with a Google design phone inside and out, but it goes with the absolute cheapest, most affordable hardware that's still reliable, that doesn't have to be too flashy, but can just provide a consistent experience for their users. Like, I think that was a valid criticism that Marquez and many other reviewers gave to the Pixel 8a. It's a decent phone, but it's still got 120 hertz. It's still got a 2000 nits brightness display, which is impressive, of course, but no one really wants to buy a Pixel 8a for $500 when you can buy the clearly superior Pixel 8 renewed for easily $500, or if you're willing to go renewed, probably even less than that. So I don't know what the sales figures look like, but I wouldn't be surprised if the sales for the Pixel 8a were not all of that strong, simply because the flagships are so much more affordable after just a short period of time. So in my opinion, the smarter route for Google to go is, hey, let's use some cheaper cameras. They may not be the fanciest, but we're going to use our Google Tensor chips and our algorithms to upscale the resolution or sharpen the image best we can. That way we can take a cheap camera lens that allows the back to basically have no no protrusion at all. It gives me kind of essential phone vibes. And I honestly think they could go with a dimmer, maybe lower refresh rate display. 90 hertz, dare I say 60 hertz? I think people would be willing to tolerate it if the price is right. And this idea of selling, you know, flagship phones for $800 and then having slightly more budget phones for $500, I just think there's too much overlap. But if they went with a more basic display that still lasted a long time, and Google still promised to provide software support and security features to the phones long into their life cycle, I think a lot of people would still be attracted to like a $300 Pixel 9a that just maybe doesn't have the fanciest flagship features, but a lot of people could still use it in their daily lives. It gets the job done and doesn't overlap too much with the depreciation of the previous year's flagship. So that's everything that I really saw when I saw these camera bumps is, hey, okay, I think they're going a little bit in a different direction, at least with the design, and I just hope that the price falls along with it. But overall, even as a big lover of the visor camera bump design, I still think it's pretty cool that they were able to slim down the camera bump to be almost non-existent if these rumors are accurate. And I also believe there's a decent chance that moving to a more boxy design might make the front and rear glass a little bit more repairable, and it might make the manufacturing and assembly of this phone a bit cheaper, which I'd be in favor of. Come on, Google, you can do it. Let's see a $200, $300 Pixel 9a that just covers the basics and gets the job done, but still allows people to feel like, hey, I'm getting a brand new phone. That would really stick it to Apple, with the iPhone SE probably going to be over $500 when it comes out next year. What do you guys think Google should do with the Pixel 9a series? How do you prevent too much product overlap? All that stuff, feel free to let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. And thanks again. This is your Pixel Boy here. I'll see you in the next one.